This video is sponsored by NordPass. Create and secure passwords easily and securely with the cybersecurity experts from NordVPN. More about them in a bit. Back in the 1940s, there were 3 networks on American TV: ABC, NBC, and CBS. If you even had a TV back then, which most households did not, you were likely tuning in to watch some sports or maybe Ed Sullivan. There was not a ton of choice, and what did exist was likely offering a variety show, local programming, or a game show. Obviously, we've come a long way since then, and there are literally thousands of hours of programming that you could try to watch every single day if you were so inclined. It shouldn't come as a surprise, then, that in our haste to make newer, better, and different shows, that sometimes a terribly offensive idea sneaks through the cracks and makes it to air. Number 10. Homeboys in Outer Space. If you missed Homeboys in Outer Space, don't be too upset. Many people did. The show aired on UPN between 1996 and 1997 and starred Flex and Darryl Bell. The plot of the show is pretty much what you'd expect from the title. 2 friends who were astronauts flew through space in a car that was called a space hoopty. The hoopty had an AI named Lacacia. They got into various adventures that neither critics nor audiences particularly enjoyed. The special effects were lackluster even for a show made in the 1990s, and the plot lines were the sorts of cringeworthy things that were hallmarks of some of UPN's less inspired endeavors back in the day. One of the characters was perpetually horny, the computer had a sassy attitude, and it can't be stated enough that they drove through space in something called a space hoopty. Basically, it exploited all of the stereotypes you might expect without any clever twists or subversion to justify them in any way whatsoever. Number 9. Black Dot White. The show Black Dot White was praised by a number of viewers while thoroughly derided by others for being one of the most offensive ideas to hit TV in years. Presented as a kind of serious experiment in race relations, other people saw the show as a bizarre exercise in blackface and whiteface. The reality show followed 2 families, one white and one black. The families share a house together and don't particularly get along. Neither family, although the show mostly focuses on the fathers of each, are exactly racist, but they have some questionable views about race in America. To confront this, each of the families is made up with the help of some Hollywood makeup artists to look like a member of the opposite race. Once they have their racial makeover, the families go out into the world with hidden cameras to learn what life is like for members of the other race. To get an idea of how everyone handled it, the father of the white family at one point says that he's waiting for someone to refer to him by the N-word, except he doesn't say N-word, he says the actual word. Some critics pointed out that it seemed to be less of a learning experience and more of a confrontation for some people involved. The father of the white family, for instance, clearly wants to prove that there is no racism in white America. The end result was a show that lacked depth and didn't really impart a message other than that you can't learn much about another race just by pretending to be them for a couple of days. Number 8. Fear Factor. Fear Factor was a popular reality game show that aired on NBC for a number of years and was hosted by Joe Rogan. Every episode of the show involved 6 people, 3 men and 3 women, being forced to confront 3 extreme stunts. If a contestant was too afraid, they would be eliminated, and if they couldn't finish it, they were also eliminated. The winner at the end would get $50,000. The first and final stunts were often a physical challenge of some kind, but the middle stunt was the real kicker of the show. The middle stunt was always something extremely gross. Contestants either had to be covered in some kind of creature, like snakes or rats, or in the worst cases, they had to eat something terrible. That could be anything from live insects to pig anus. One episode of Fear Factor proved to be so offensive that they didn't actually let it get to air. The 2012 episode that NBC opted to remove before it was actually seen by audiences featured contestants being forced to drink a glass of donkey semen, followed by a glass of urine. The episode was going to air, however, rumors of the contents hit the internet before the show did and drummed up so much disgust that the network responded by cancelling it and replacing it with a rerun. They also went so far as to prohibit the episode's contestants from speaking about it in the media. Number 7. South Park. South Park has been on TV for nearly a quarter of a century at this point. If you haven't heard of it, you probably don't own a TV. It's also no secret that South Park is offensive, because the show is pretty much predicated on the principle of being offensive. Showrunners Matt Stone and Trey Parker have gone out of their way for years to push the envelope and make some of the most offensive jokes they possibly can on a regular basis. That's what audiences loved about it, and that's part of why it's endured for as long as it has. What you might not be aware of, even if you are a fan of the show, is just how much offense the show has caused over the years. In fact, South Park is so offensive that it has its own Wikipedia page for just the controversies that the show has stirred up, and it is a long page. Aside from facing the odd lawsuit, South Park has been protested and criticized pretty much since it first premiered back in 1997. Back then, elementary schools were banning kids from wearing South Park t-shirts. At least one person has literally called South Park dangerous to democracy. Numerous Christian advocate groups have protested the show many times, in particular over the way it portrays Christianity and organized religion. So even though it's true that many people love South Park, and it's proving to be one of the most popular animated shows ever produced, it's also impossible to deny that it has definitely offended a wide segment of other viewers as well. Number 6. Heil, honey, I'm home. Some ideas are so clearly bad that it's amazing when you think of just how many people had to say okay to it before it came onto TV. The TV show is not made in a vacuum. There's a creator, producer, directors, actors, and a network itself that's going to put it on TV. Literally, hundreds of people, at a minimum, have to all be on the same page to get a TV show on the air. Yet somehow, back in 1990, that's exactly what happened with the sitcom about Hitler entitled Heil, Honey, I'm Home. Even knowing nothing else about the show beyond the title and the fact that it's about Hitler, do you need to know anything else about the show besides the title and the fact that it's about Hitler? The first episode of the show, and the only one that ever aired, opens with a disclaimer that the tape of the show was found hidden away on a backlot in California. A fictional backstory was created for the show that was made by some unsung comedic genius of television who was never heard from again, and the show is actually an American sitcom. All the actors have American accents, and the filming style is reflective of an early 80s television show rather than one that was actually made in the 1990s. There's a very 80s-esque opening song, and when the actors first appear on screen, the audiences burst into applause for no reason each time, as though they were excited to see these people, in much the same way as they would do in the Dick Van Dyke Show. You can find the full episodes on YouTube, and if you can stomach the idea of a show that's trying to get laughs out of one of history's greatest monsters, it's still not very entertaining or funny. The Hitler character is insufferable in a weird Ralph Cramden sitcom kind of way, and the entire thing was clearly in bad taste, and so it's not hard to imagine why it went over so poorly. 8 episodes were filmed in total, but only that first one saw the light of day. And now a quick break from some of the most ridiculous stuff we can't even believe a network executive greenlit to plug something that is an absolute no-brainer, and that would be today's video sponsor, NordPass. NordPass is a next-generation password manager where cybersecurity meets modern convenience. How many times have you struggled to remember those passwords you only use 2 or 3 times a year? Suddenly you're trying to reset a password, you can't remember the name of your favorite TV show from 9 years ago when you first set up the account. Before you know it, half your afternoon is gone. NordPass is the perfect solution to these password management woes. It stores all of your passwords in one super secure place, letting you autofill any login with just one click. But NordPass isn't just a one-trick pony. Its password health feature analyzes your passwords, letting you know if they're too old, too weak, or being used across too many websites. If they are, you can use its password generation tool to create and store new, more secure passwords. As if that's not enough, it's also got Data Breach Scanner. It's a cool tool that allows you to know if your login or credit card information has been leaked somewhere online. And of course, all of this is designed and managed by the same experts who run NordVPN, so you know that they've got that proven track record of internet security. Right now, you guys can get 50% off NordPass and an additional month for free at nordpass.com/top10s. That comes out to just $2.49 a month, and you get that extra month for free. And now let's get back to TV shows. Number 5, Generation KKK. If the name of the show doesn't convince you that this was a bad idea, then the backstory certainly will. Generation KKK was supposed to be a docuseries focusing on the Ku Klux Klan and people getting away from it. The name of the series was actually changed to Escaping the KKK to make it sound a little more appealing and less like it was in some way supportive of the infamous hate group. Theoretically, a documentary series about people escaping the KKK would probably be interesting and informative to viewers. The problem with the series was that it soon came to light that A&E, the network producing the show, had been paying participants, and not just those who reportedly left the Klan, but actual Klan members. Typically, a documentary is not going to pay subjects to participate in it, and certainly it casts a suspicious light on the show that is actively paying members of a recognized hate group to participate. That is, in the most basic terms, supporting the Ku Klux Klan. A&E distanced itself from the controversy by laying the blame on a third-party production company for making the cash payments to members of the KKK. The result of the controversy was them dropping the show altogether. Number 4, Man vs. Beast. In 2003, Fox took reality shows to a brand new level when it aired the first of 2 specials called Man vs. Beast. The name of the show wasn't coy or deceptive in any way. It was a show in which human beings went toe-to-toe with animals in a series of competitions. It was almost like a joke program straight off The Simpsons, except it was totally real. The competitions competitions presented on the show included an Olympic sprinter racing a giraffe and a zebra, a competitive eater trying to devour more hot dogs than a 1,000-pound bear, and a Navy SEAL going head-to-head against a chimpanzee in an obstacle course. Critics absolutely tore the show to pieces. This wasn't offensive on a moral level, it was offensive on an intellectual one. The phrase "more on television" popped up in a review from Slate. Ratings were pretty abysmal, but the network still brought it back for a second installment, which featured a gymnast versus an orangutan hanging from rings and a relay race featuring a camel and 4 little people. This time, the Ottawa Citizen called the show a sign of the impending apocalypse. Number 3. All My Baby's Mamas. Whether or not you're familiar with the work of rapper Shorty Lowe, one thing that you're definitely not going to be familiar with was his would-be TV series called All My Baby's Mamas. The show was pulled even before the first episode aired. The show was to be a reality series following Lowe and the mothers of his children. He had 11 children by 10 different women. That simple premise, combined with the name, was enough to drum up some public outcry towards the Oxygen Network, which was going to air the show. Many people felt that it was exploiting negative stereotypes about black people. One group in particular, known as Color of Change, started a petition in which they accused the network of trying to profit from inaccurate, dehumanizing, and harmful perceptions of black families. The network responded to criticisms by dumping the show before it even aired, although Lowe was said to be extremely upset by this and fought to keep it on the air. Number 2. The Melting Pot. Another British sitcom, The Melting Pot, aired one single episode in 1975 and was never seen again. An entire season of the show was filmed, but never saw the light of day. The reason for this is pretty clear once you know what the show is about. It featured British actor and comedian Spike Milligan playing an illegal Asian immigrant named Mr. Van Gogh. He was in brownface at the time. Other characters in the show included a Cockney Chinese man and a Scottish Arab. The show was canned very quickly, and while Milligan himself was perplexed as to the reason why, suggesting that maybe it just wasn't funny enough, most people agreed the problem was that it was horribly, horribly racist. Weirdly enough, this was neither the first nor the last time that Milligan would go brownface for a role. As an actor, he was apparently infatuated with the idea of pretending to be a Pakistani character and actually went in brownface in 2 other attempted series as well. Number 1. Kid Nation. We've settled into the idea of reality shows these days, and there are not a lot of surprises left in how the shows are produced. But through the early and mid-2000s, when reality shows are really exploding, networks tried some pretty bizarre ideas to see what might work. One of these was Kid Nation. The plot of the show involved sending 40 children between the ages of 8 and 15 to an abandoned town in New Mexico where they could start their own society. There are no adults around, no phones, no rules at all really, just some cameras to watch what happens. Before the show even aired, it was controversial. Because these kids had to fend for themselves, they were working up to 14 hours a day to get things done. This skirted around legal concerns because of statutes that protected film productions from child labor laws. Critics were quick to question the ethics of the show. You see, the winner got $20,000, but that money was legally going to the parents. Parents were required to sign massive waivers that let CBS off the hook for any medical issues or harm that their children might face. Hot cooking grease splashed into the face of one contestant, an 11-year-old girl, when she was making a meal. Another child accidentally drank bleach. There was also some criticism from parents involved that the scenes were reshot and their children were fed lines to say to the camera to make the show more interesting, the kind of stuff we sort of expect from so-called reality shows today. In the end, the idea was deemed offensive across the board for its exploitative treatment of the kids involved. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, thank you for watching.